those who might be on are muted. And so I asked the elders if they would address us this day to give us insights that might be perceived and conceived as inspirational, but that might also be something beneficial for everyone who views it now and in the future. So let me step aside and welcome the elders, who I'm grateful for their presence here today, in each day and each moment that follows. We are here and to greet you and each one that views this recording as they are looking for their next most purposeful steps, as they enlist a life of meaning and purpose. And so, might we set about to discuss how all might best proceed moving forward and into the steps that would allow each to manifest the life most preferred. And we could start by right thinking and positive thinking and those elements that will move you to be in a better space. But might we also share a measure of the love component that will embrace and lift each one up above and beyond what they might otherwise experience. And so know that each entering a pathway or portal to access them into the next phase of what they seek to experience within life, that they have different pathways to perhaps conceive and receive that which they do seek. And so know that as you look to traverse life and as you look for that next portal or pathway, that you might consider love as an integral ingredient that you might access more than you believe accessible. And so all is a gateway. All is a gateway for you to enter into and to be in a space that will allow you to access more than you might otherwise with the mental knowingness that you now hold. For there are limitations with the mind and what the mind will allow in and accept. And so we will say that often, if you step aside and allow the mental knowingness to be no more for only a small space of time, you might access that which is of greater magnitude than what the mind would enlist to tell you or extol in its communications. And so this day we seek that you know that there is more than you might currently see in the physicality of life this day and each day that passes from this one. And so as you look to traverse life, know that it is how you embark on the day that will make a noteworthy difference. For if you set the platform and the potentiality for more to be in existence by enlisting other measures and truly a pathway that moves you to traverse differently than perhaps before, you will find this to be a measure of most significance. And so we now pause now to see if there is a question that might be posed that we might elaborate upon. When looking to enact one's purpose, Is there a methodology that you would suggest so that each can enact that which would move them to enact that purpose more readily? I think many people don't know what their purpose is and want to know. And so it's how do we slow the mind enough so that what we set up before embodiment can come through in a more expeditious way? How might that come into play? We would say that when you start your day, that you fixate upon that which you seek to bring forward, that you do so with the freshness and spontaneity of all that might be allowed within that space and point in time, that you look to evolve your process so that it is ever evolving and fresh, and that you know that each platform, each thing that you do set about to create is possible, and that you believe this, and that you actually feel as if it is already physically manifest. And the feeling component is most noteworthy and most important because it allows the feeling component to be had. And as you know, it is the feeling component that has brought you into embodiment here. Let us digress to say that you wanted to understand how something specifically felt. And rather than in textbook form or in an understanding, you came to this space to know from the weightiness of the dimensionality that exists here how it felt to do thus and such. And so it is the feeling component that has brought you here. And in order to know this, you need to know that. In order to know the preferred, you need to know the lesser and not preferred aspect. So you know the full scope of that which you do prefer. And so often, there is not the full understanding of what that means. And so oftentimes, those in embodiment choose not to feel the negative aspect, choose not to feel the unpreferred portion of the equation. And that becomes stored and suppressed as this energy does not get expressed as it might. For when in a lesser mode, when in a mode that appears as the victim, there is not the same expression, there is not the same feeling, there is not the same connectivity that needs to exist from one to the other. For there is a minimization of the energy, which is then felt from a more victimhood type of status. And so when you release that victimhood, when you release that negative, not wanted aspect, but preferred because it does allow the full scope of understanding of what it was that you did want to understand, then you can move into that space to fully embrace, envelop, and know that which was sought from a understanding type of platform of awareness. And so this day, know that as you focus upon your preferred objective as you start your day, that you do then set the platform and the foundational premise by which all does then evolve. And you touch upon your purpose and you reinforce it throughout the day and you feel it enacted as if it were already in place. And so know that this thing which is already in place is what you desire and long to feel. And so you add the feeling aspect to the mix. And this then moves to become your day as you move about it, conjecturing components within the mix of it all. not to ferret out each aspect, but to allow universe to fill in many of the blanks as you set the more pertinent points within the outline. And so this is what we would suggest starting out, that you look toward these objectives and know that this is why you embodied, and this is what will take you from being earthbound to moving back into a space where you had originated from. And so know that many things are not known in this space, for they are not accepted by the mind. But might you just integrate with these words and not make a professment or pronouncement that would be of a disbelief or not aligned nature, but perhaps just consider it this day. And so we ask that you consider these steps before more is given. Sometimes people enter into a fearful place, and the next question is, with coronavirus and vaccines that are available today, is there a reason to be concerned about the vaccine and taking it? What would you advise? We would say that each one must hold the premise and the question queried for an internal barometer to be recognized, and to focus upon the question when you enter into a meditative posture to see how the premise of this aligns for you. Each does have a presupposed objective within life, and sometimes things will move you closer to or further away from that objective. And so we would say that each might look within to find the answer that resonates accordingly there. For there is not one preferred response over another, but it is an individual consideration that each must pose within themselves so that they align with and know that what they seek is appropriate for them. And so we will say that getting the mental box out of the way to have that stillness and that moment of clarity is one of the most difficult and pressing things in existence today. And we would recommend that you set a parameter or proximity of preference to discern what best methodology could be employed for you so that you can get that mental knowingness out of the way for just a short time as you meditate and you seek answers to the questions that have been most pressing. And so engage in a short verse, engage in a short mantra, engage in a envisioned aspect that will move that mental box away and off of point and center so that you can know more specifically what it is you seek to understand. And so we will say that this is most important, and it is most important in each thing that you seek to accomplish. For if the mental knowingness, that mental box, seeks to step in and answer all the questions that you pose, you will have its level of knowingness as opposed to a higher, more 360 vantage from universe, universal knowing, or your higher aspect of self. And so know from whom you get this information, know where it is coming from. Always engage in light and love and the proximity of love that is the portal and pathway that you might prefer to access at this time.